Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Slasher Scotty. I am your host, Scotty McCoy, and boy, do I have a surprise for all of you. I have on Zoom with me right now Hayden Newman, and he is the director and also plays Riley Connor in Reunion from Hell 2. And if you are a little curious, yes, it is a direct sequel to Reunion from Hell 1. How you doing, Hayden?
I'm good, Scotty. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so glad to have you on. I'm using my new microphone and I used it yesterday for my interview with Debbie Sue. That's the first time I used it. So I'm going to quick check to make sure that everything is good. It looks like my speakers are set to the proper speaker and my microphone is set to the proper microphone just to make sure I don't have to redo it every single time I do my interview.
Hey, I understand that.
Absolutely. So I have one question pretty much similar from last year, and that's the first one, just to give everybody a repeat or like a refresher on who you are and what you do. So can you tell us, like, how did you get your start into acting and filmmaking?
Well, I started out like most actors in theater. I was a theater brat and went from acting in theater to directing in theater. And now that was about 20 years experience there before I directed my first film.
Mm-hmm.
I had the idea for the first movie rolling around in my head forever. And I went to a convention, Days of the Dead in Atlanta, Georgia. And it's odd, I never go to the panels. It's very rare for me to go to a panel at a convention. But this particular panel, and it was on independent filmmaking, I decided to go to. It was hosted by Michael Biehn, who was in the Terminator and Aliens, and his wife Jennifer. And basically, they said they had gotten into indie filmmaking, and basically they said in the panel, if you want to make a movie, go make a movie. Nobody's stopping you but you. Right. So I went home from that convention and wrote the first draft of the first movie in 6 or 7 days, I believe.
Nice.
And it just went from there.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right. The only one that's stopping you, not just from making a movie, but from doing anything in life, is yourself. And that's if you don't attempt it. Because if you fail to do it, that's perfectly fine. It's not a bad thing. You pick yourself up, you retry it, and you learn from the failure you did and don't repeat the same mistakes.
Exactly. And that's the thing, you only get one shot in this crazy thing we call life.
Yeah.
So take chances, you never know unless you're willing to jump off the cliff and do it.
Absolutely. We all have one life. Make the best of it. Live your life like you don't have another day, to live, because you don't know what tomorrow brings. So that's why everybody should take the chances, because if you don't try, then it's an automatic no. It's already a no because you haven't tried.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those that are unaware, and I asked this question to everybody else that I've interviewed in Reunion from Hell 2, and I'm going to obviously ask it to you, especially since you're the director. What is this movie all about?
Okay, well, 2 picks up 2 years after the events of the first film. And we have the surviving characters returning, obviously. They have tried to put their lives back together after the events of the first film and tried to move on. And when you survive something like you did in the first film and you go through that, it changes you as a person.
Yeah,
obviously. And my character decides to, with some friends, go up to a cabin in the mountains owned by my family to celebrate Christmas. And of course, lo and behold, we go up there. We are very isolated. It starts to happen again. And we are put into the situation where once we figure out, which is very different from 2 or from 1, we don't know that we're in danger until it's time to fight in 2. Literally, we figure out what's going on, and it's time to fight. We
Yeah.
don't have time to process it.
Right.
So that's what two's about.
Yeah.
It's a Christmas hard holiday slasher. There's elements of Black Christmas in it, of
Nice.
course, elements of Scream. I'd say some elements from Friday the 13th. There's nods, much like in the first one, there's nods to horror films throughout the movie.
Right. And it definitely has a Nightmare on Elm Street's elements in it as well, with Lisa Wilcox, Danny Hassel, both from Nightmares 4 and 5, as well as Mark Patton from Nightmare 2. So how was it like not just working with them, but directing them?
First of all, it was very unreal. It was very you had to pinch yourself.
Yeah.
When we did one, Kathy Podwell was in one, and sadly she could not return for two. And Kathy directing her and working with her was amazing. But to have Lisa come into that role and what she did with that role, she was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And Danny is just a wonderful, wonderful, loving human being. I got the chance to really get to know Danny back in September of last year. We did a convention together, Tidewater Horror Convention, and we were neighbors the whole weekend.
Nice.
So I really got a chance to know Danny then. And Danny's just a loving human being, he loves to joke. And then Mark is one of the sweetest, most loving people you will ever meet.
Nice.
They're all very professional, all great to work with. But it was unreal. It was very much, it was to go from 1 to 2 and have 3 alumni from the Nightmare on Elm Street series into it was an experience I'll never forget for the rest of my life.
Absolutely. And that's what makes me even more mad that I had to drop because of freaking COVID, because you told me straight up, like I asked you, am I going to be in any scenes with like Lisa, Mark, or Danny? And you said at the time you were still doing the script and you're like, I don't know about Mark and Danny yet, but Lisa, you're going to have some pretty good scenes with. And I'm like, damn, no, when I dropped, I'm like, damn it.
Yeah. Well, of course, Lisa stepped into the role that Kathy played in the first film, which was my mother. And that was not an easy recast. I had to, when we figured out Kathy was not going to be able to return, I had to sit down and think, okay, who favors Kathy and is talented enough to step into this role and make it their own? And if you look at Lisa and you look at Kathy, they look like they could be sisters.
Yeah, they really do.
So
I was thinking the hair worked out really well for both of them.
Yes, and there's scenes in 2 certain shots that you wouldn't know.
Right.
You just wouldn't know. But Lisa came on and did a phenomenal job. The first scene we shot together on the very first day, we dove right into the emotion. It was a very emotional scene where we're talking about the events of one. And it was just to watch her do it. It was amazing.
Absolutely. So we do know what Lisa plays. She plays obviously your mother, taking over Kathy Podwell. But Danny Hassel and Mark Patton weren't in the first movie, their characters. So what character can you tell us about both of their characters and how do they fit into this plot?
Well, Danny's character, his name is Clay, is actually my mother's little brother. He's my uncle.
Okay.
So he was not talked about in the first film, but obviously we're up there celebrating Christmas, and he's there. And my character, Riley, and him have a very close relationship. I think he was very much the uncle that, probably gave Riley his first drink and first, very much like an older brother than an
Mhm.
uncle. um, which Danny did a phenomenal job playing that
Right.
part. And then Mark, he plays a character named Ryan Lavery,
Mhm.
and Ryan is how do I put it? Ryan is a reporter who his career was going downhill,
Mhm.
and the events of one happened, and he wrote a book. He covered the
Mhm.
story, wrote a book, got a movie deal, um, and his career took back off.
Mhm.
So he is determined to keep the story going any
Right.
way he can.
Right.
And there's a lot of tension between specifically Riley and Ryan,
Mhm.
because Ryan does not know when to stop. Um, and Riley just wants to move on.
Mhm.
And we had a lot of fun scenes together.
Nice.
You know, we played well off of each other.
Nice. So I'm gonna let the viewers know that this next question has no spoiler whatsoever. It's not even a part of the film. It's just for me at this point because I'm actually really curious. Because I didn't see the script obviously before I had it drop, but I was playing the character of Logan. So I needed to know, I do need to know what was Logan's purpose? What was he going to be in this movie since this obviously was written out of the movie?
Logan was going to be one of the new friends
Mhm.
that went to the cabin with Riley.
Mhm.
Um, so, I mean, that was pretty much his purpose. He was one
Right,
of the new friends that has come into Riley's life in the
right.
2 years since the first
Okay.
film.
Pretty much
Um,
cannon fodder.
yeah,
Yeah, it's awesome though, and I really wanted to do the part, and you obviously know that because you even saw how excited I was, and I donated to the campaign multiple times for different perks, and I'm
yeah,
glad to help out. I shared that post, that campaign so much, and I'm obviously still interviewing cast and crew, and would love to have Danny and Mark also on my show. That way I can promote this movie so much because I believe in you and I believe in what you obviously I didn't see the first one, but I know from sources like Greg Gilbert, who interviewed you twice, that
yes.
he loved it and he said you stole the show.
Yeah, I heard that, and he actually told me that, and that blew me away to hear Greg
Hmm.
say that, and it
Yep.
meant a lot.
Hmm.
Um, yes, I'm actually getting ready to go on his show again here soon.
Nice.
So yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I know that you mentioned earlier that obviously when you go through something like you do in one, it's really changes a person.
Hmm.
Obviously, Riley was the hit the stick end at this from this whole thing. Like he was the one that was the main target. Everybody else was really just collateral damage at that point to an extent, I would assume, because I didn't see one.
Yeah.
But Riley is the focal point of this at this point. So how does your character evolve from the first film, and how does he kind of change personally and even emotionally in the second?
Well, I would say in the first film, Riley was when you met Riley in the first film, I did the opposite. Normally, when you meet
Hmm.
the protagonists, they're pretty normal.
Yeah.
But when you meet Riley in the first film, he's a mess. He's an alcoholic. He's popping pills.
Hmm.
He's been through something and he blames himself.
Right.
Um, so throughout the first film, Riley went through this journey of trying to figure out who's doing this, why they're doing it. And Riley kind of got his resolution by the end of the first film.
Yeah.
So when we pick up with Riley 2 years later, Riley has, I mean, he still drinks, but not to the extent that he drank in the first film.
Okay.
Um, he's kind of moved, I mean, he's moved on with his life the best he
Hmm.
can because, you have characters like Brian that's always there trying to get
Hmm. The
a
scoop.
scoop or uh, a quote or anything.
Hmm.
But Riley's moved on, and he's like I said, he's gotten his resolution
Hmm.
that he needed at the end of that first film,
Right.
and Riley is cautious,
Hmm.
obviously, but when we pick up with Riley, I think he really just wants to celebrate Christmas with his family and enjoy that time. And then once things start to happen, Riley at first thinks it's in his head. And then, obviously we discover that things are happening again. Right. And I mean, then at that point, and I think this is both with my character and Lisa's character, we're ready to fight for what we have left. And we don't care if we die. We just want to protect. Where Riley wants to protect her, she wants to protect Riley.
Right.
So I will say, there is a lot of changes between mine and her character, specifically from 1 to 2.
Okay.
Because her character had to make some very difficult choices in 1, and that obviously changed her too.
Yeah. So do you think Riley has a form of PTSD prior to the attacks in 2?
Oh, definitely.
I would assume.
Yes.
Absolutely. So I interviewed Jake C. Young, who was in Reunion from Hell 2 as Julian, and it's funny because he told the funny story about I believe it was Mike Katz. He was making, I guess, lunch, and he said lunches were at all weird times because you're sleeping a lot during the day because you're filming pretty much all night, but he's making this sandwich, and Mark Patton comes in, he's like, "What are you eating?" Mike just looks. I could picture him doing it. He's just looking. Sandwich? He's like, and Mark's like, "No shit, what's on it?" So do you have any funny stories from set?
There's so many funny stories. When you put a group of actors together, all different personalities, and literally, I'm not joking, we were isolated on a top of a mountain.
Oh, I have that question coming up. I would have been terrified if I was still in the film.
So, there was one particular night, first of all, with Mark, you never knew what was going, once he got comfortable with everybody, you never knew what was going to come out of his mouth.
Yeah.
I mean, it was always hilarious. Same thing, you never really knew what Danny was going to say. And also with Lisa, there was one, we were starting a scene, and my character's coming downstairs, and she's walking. Actually, this particular scene is right when Jake Young's character is introduced.
Okay.
My character's coming downstairs, and she's walking from the kitchen, and we call action. So I walk down the stairs, and she walks by, and she's like, "Hey, honey," and she had a bottle of tequila. She was like, "Do you want a shot?" And it wasn't. She was playing a joke, but it threw us all off. We're like, "What is she doing?" But that happened. What else? There was one particular night, and this was towards the end of the shoot. And this is on video, but I had came in from being outside. I think we were on dinner break, and I was in my own little world, like on my phone, and all of a sudden, like this, and it didn't throw me off when the music started because they were always playing music. So this stripper music comes on, and I didn't think nothing about it.
Hey, did you get on the stripping pole?
No, I didn't. But I look up because Jonna starts laughing, and I look up, and Evan J. Mackey, who plays Cameron in the film, is ripping his shirt off and like starts trying to give me a lap dance. And I'm like, what is going on?
Oh, dear
and
God.
Sam has the boom mic dancing around. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? It was hilarious.
That's
and
awesome.
The video is hilarious. Like it was just one of those moments.
Nice.
had to be
Send me
there.
his contact information because I don't think I reached out to him to have him on my show because that'll be a story I would like to talk about as well. Like get a laugh out of that because a lot of the people that watch interviews like to hear behind the scenes stuff, and I think that would be something funny that he can also elaborate on more and what happened, what he was thinking when it happened, and all that.
Yeah, I mean, it completely caught. I mean, I'm in my own little world on my telephone, and I look up, and because you've interviewed Jonna's
Yep.
laughing, and I'm like, what is she laughing at? And all I see is a shirt like spinning, and I'm
Yeah.
like, what is going on? Yeah, it was
Yeah.
hilarious.
Jonna, and I know you were really upset when I had a drop, but Jonna was so crushed when I had a drop because she really wanted to meet me.
Yes, she was. She was.
Yeah, absolutely. So you did mention about obviously being isolated, and I heard from a couple of people I've interviewed about directions about saying your GPS will not work here or something like that. So, what were your initial thoughts, and what were you thinking at the time when you were like going to this location and it's literally like middle of nowhere, United States?
Well, okay, they failed to put that on the listing, first of all. They said it was secluded, so I knew it was secluded, but my GPS actually, because mine's built into my car,
Mhm.
got me there just fine. But you hit this dirt road, and I'm like, okay. And Evan actually, because Evan lives in Georgia, he rode up with me, and we went up on Wednesday.
Mhm.
So we went up 2 days, 3 days prior to starting the film.
Mhm.
And it's dark by the time we get there.
Mhm.
And we're going up this mountain. And I'm like, whoa, like, and we're not talking a paved road. I mean, dirt road, rocks,
Oof.
bumpy. And I mean, literally going up the mountain. I was like, what in the world is this? Like, they failed to put this in the listing. So we finally get to the top where the house is, or cabin is, and I mean, it was scary. I'm not gonna lie, it was scary driving up that.
You're pretty much in your own horror movie, Cabin from Hell or something like that.
Yeah, and when we got up there, and I realized just how isolated it was. I mean, we even talked about that we could have a movie within a movie. Somebody's like out there watching us.
Yeah.
These
Like,
filmmakers make a movie and kill them,
yeah.
because there wasn't any neighbors around.
Yeah.
Beautiful view, but I mean, yeah,
Yeah. I can only imagine like that would be like that place was literally built just for horror movie productions.
I really believe it was.
Some horror movie fan is like trying to literally get, rent this cabin out to a couple of, filmmakers.
I really believe it was.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you believe the best part about filming Rooney from Hell 2 was, and what about the worst?
Well, the best part on this one was, my original crew came back,
Mm-hmm.
Sam and Jonna and Jeremiah come back, and
Mm-hmm.
so this was a much smoother shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Obviously, you go through one together. We all know how the others work, each other
Mm-hmm.
works, and this was a very smooth shoot. I
Yeah.
mean, we were ahead of schedule. I mean, and also the caliber of actors in this one,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not saying anything bad about the actors in one. They were all wonderful, but the
Yeah.
caliber changed.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was probably one of the best parts. The worst part, and this is kind of a funny story,
Okay.
uh, other than the snow, which was beautiful, but once it snowed, you're really stuck. Um, I'd say there was two. One was, and this wasn't filming, but this happened during filming. Uh, and it was towards the end of the shoot. One day, all of a sudden, the water just stops.
Ooh.
And I'm like, what's going on? And it had snowed the night before, so I thought, maybe the pipes froze. People are working on the pipes. So I get in contact with the owner, and I'm like, there's no water, and maybe or you think they're working on the pipes, and he's like, no, because you're on a well. The well ran dry. So, and he was very accommodating and wonderful. He had his person drive up the mountain 3 times with 3
Wow.
500-gallon tanks of water to fill the
Wow.
well back up. So we had water. We were only without water for a few hours, but that was uncomfortable
I
to be
bet.
without water.
Exactly. Yeah.
The other part I would say that was bad, and I wouldn't really say bad, is you know the mountain.
Yeah.
The mountain, literally. And the fact that as the director and being in the movie, the last time I got to leave that cabin before production started was the Friday before we started shooting. And I was literally up there until we left. From that point on, I didn't
Right.
leave. So I was really becoming like Jack Nicholson in The Shining, like cabin
Nice.
fever, like I gotta get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. Did it snow when you were filming?
It did. It snowed the first night, and
Okay.
then it snowed exactly 1 week later.
That's good though, because it's a Christmas horror movie. Like the snow makes it more authentic.
Yes. Yeah,
Did it snow a lot?
it did. I mean, it wasn't like 14 inches or anything like that, but I mean, it was the biggest snowflakes I've ever seen in my life. They were
Oh wow. Okay.
huge.
Nice.
Um, but it snowed enough that we were able to get the shots that we needed to get before it melted.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's definitely good. And obviously Reunion from Hell, both the first and the second are indie films, and you're an indie filmmaker, and that means that it comes with a bunch of challenges, whether it be scheduling or funding or whatever. What do you believe was the biggest challenge of getting this film made?
Uh, um, honestly, I would say funding on this one. And I think it was because a lot of people had not seen the first,
Yep.
but the way the first ended, we had to go into a sequel. I mean,
Right.
it was left open for a sequel. And also, I don't think a lot of people believed that Lisa and Danny and Mark were all really in the movie
Right.
until they started seeing behind the scenes photos
Yeah.
from set. And then people got all excited.
Yeah, that is
Um,
it's an unbelievable situation, because like 3 people that worked in the same franchise that are like the main stars of said movies that they were in, all in this movie, that it is something that makes you think, is that really happening? But it really did happen.
yes, it did. And that's one thing about me, and I think anybody will tell you, if I say it's going to happen, it's happening.
Right. The
You
only
know,
way
I don't announce somebody unless they are under contract.
exactly.
So
Now, it doesn't mean that they would drop for whatever reason, so that would be out of your control. But
yeah,
when you announce it, obviously you're not gonna make a fake announcement, because people are gonna realize like this isn't happening. Or if it gets back to the actors, obviously with them being tagged in every single post on top of it, I'm sure they would have came out and said, "Look, that's a scam. I'm not in it."
exactly. Like that, happened with a certain filmmaker last year.
Yep.
If you remember.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So obviously you mentioned you left one. I believe you were talking about one when you left that open-ended, do a sequel, which came out to be in this one too. Are we getting, or is there plans for a third?
Okay. There are talks.
Okay.
Um, I can't say obviously who makes it out of this one alive.
Right.
Um, there are talks.
Mhm.
If there is a third, I mean, there's already thoughts about what it could be.
Okay.
But if there is a third, it's going to be at least a couple of years down the road.
Yeah.
Like I've been in these characters' heads for literally at this point 2 years,
Mhm.
2.5 years.
Mhm.
I need a break. I need to get out of
Yeah.
these characters' heads.
I get it.
But it's very possible. We didn't leave two open for a sequel. I think
Mhm.
we closed the story very beautifully and
Mhm.
naturally, but there always is a chance to do a third one.
Right. Well, if you do a third one, or if you do obviously any other films, especially if they're slasher horrors,
Yeah.
I need my redemption. But absolutely, yeah, I look forward to seeing the second one. Obviously the first one is already out. So regarding that one, if someone wants to get a copy of this film or they want to see this movie, where can they see this? How can they see this? When can they see this?
Okay. Right now, they can contact me to order a DVD or Blu-ray copy,
Okay.
and it will come signed if they want it signed. We are looking at streaming options to
Mm-hmm.
get it on streaming.
Okay.
And there's a few out there. We just haven't decided the best
Mm-hmm.
one yet we want to go with.
Mm-hmm.
So we are working on the streaming. But right now, if you want a copy, all you got to do is contact me and I'll send you a invoice through PayPal and
Okay.
your copy will be on its way.
Awesome. So how can they contact you to get a copy?
They can contact me on my Facebook, which is, Hayden Newman. They can
Mhm.
contact me on the official Reunion from Hell page on
Mhm.
Facebook, which is
Okay.
Reunion from Hell 2, or in the Reunion from Hell group on Facebook, because there is a group. So you can, which is also Reunion from Hell 2. There's multiple ways to contact me. I'm very findable. Um,
Awesome.
but also, I would like to say, as far as that question goes, we are getting ready because a lot of people have asked. So I'll go ahead and answer this and
Okay.
let you know. We are getting ready to do that a finishing funds Indiegogo
Okay.
campaign. And one of the perks that will be offered, because a lot of people asked for this, is a perk that includes the first film and the second film.
Awesome. Awesome. That's great.
So you could get it all in, like, obviously you're not getting the second film right now because we're in post-production, but you can go ahead and
Right.
get
Yeah.
one.
Awesome. That's great. So the last question I do got for you, are there anything else that you want to promote, public appearances, projects, social medias, websites to the listening and viewing audience?
Well, we're getting ready to, obviously, like I said, first of all, we have the Reunion from Hell 2 Facebook group and
Mhm.
the official page. We are getting ready to, I think, start back on the Hag Witch, which is, Sam's film,
Mhm.
Sam Hodge,
Nice.
here soon. And that would be more of a question for him as far
Okay.
as, I know you can go to the Sin Savage Films
Mhm.
page and learn more about that.
Mhm.
I do have some convention appearances coming up. One is in Lexington, Kentucky in July. It's the Hunters Against Hate convention.
Nice.
Me, Jonna, Sam, and Mark are all going to be there.
That's
And
awesome.
that's July 8th through the 10th.
Nice. And now are you going to that as a vendor or as a guest?
As a guest.
Awesome.
As a guest.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
And I I have other conventions I'm in talks with that all plays out. A lot of conventions now, or my agent is trying to book me and Mark and Lisa and Danny all at the same conventions
Mhm.
together. So keep an eye out for that. Always
Mhm.
there will be announcements made.
Awesome.
But one thing I want to say about Mark that I didn't say is the character of Ryan, the way I wrote it was kind of very, very serious. And
Yeah.
I remember the very first day we shot with Mark, and it's the first time, the very first scene we shot with Mark, and it's the first time Ryan is introduced. He's been talked about in the film, but this is the first time he's introduced. And we would do rehearsals and all that, but he would rehearse it in one way, and then once camera started rolling, he would go into this different way. The way he portrayed Ryan blew me away. Like, it was not what I was expecting. He portrayed Ryan in this comical. Ryan's definitely going to be a comic relief in the film.
Okay.
And I remember when he turned around and delivered that first line, I was like, okay, this is where we're going with it.
Nice.
And a couple of other stories, a certain character, and I don't want to say who, but that actor, I felt so bad for them. There's a tense scene between me and that character, and my character has to slap that character.
Right.
And of course, I was trained to do the theatrical slap. You don't really touch.
Right.
Yeah. And the sounds put in post. And the actor was like, no, really slap me. I was like, okay. So it's a very intense scene. And we had to do it like 20, 25 times. And I was trying to slap softly, but I would get so into the moment that sometimes I would forget and slap them very hard. I felt so bad for them.
So, Hayden, good job. You just became a professional tattoo artist. Your handprint right on the face.
Oh, their face was red. Like, we had to go in and put makeup on to finish shooting. And I felt so bad because one of the best slaps, and we thought we got it, the camera wasn't rolling. So we had to go back and redo it.
Oh my God, that sucks.
But that's another thing I'll say about the actors in this film. Every single actor did their own stunts. Lisa did her own stunts. Mark did his own stunts. Danny did his own stunts.
Yep. And they're all like, consummate professionals. They all, were committed and dedicated to their parts and to the film. And that's what you want.
Yes. And there's one scene, because the teaser trailer's coming soon. There's one particular scene in the teaser. And Lisa just blew me away. But she's got the bat.
I saw that.
And she is kind of, I don't want to give too much away, but she's kind of baiting the killer. And when she did that scene, it was just like, whoa. Like,
yeah, I saw the pictures of that. And then when you sent me the teaser trailer, just to get my opinion, obviously, because the interview to prepare and all that as well. And I saw it and I'm like, I got chills.
Yeah, she did a phenomenal job in that scene. I mean, she did a phenomenal job throughout the whole movie, but in that scene in particular, I will say she's a badass with that bat.
Yeah. Well, so if there is a third one, and and obviously Lisa comes back for the role, maybe Kathy could come back as the long lost twin sister.
There's a possibility. You never know. You never know.
You never know in acting.
Exactly. I will say that the person who purchased the bat off our first Indiegogo, he will be very honored to have that bat.
Yeah.
Because that bat has some very memorable moments in the film.
Absolutely. And the fact that, Lisa Wilcox not just used the bat on screen, but actually it was in her possession. She held it, she used it. Like, it's Lisa Wilcox. It'd be one thing if it's, this indie actor, but it's another thing when it's Lisa Wilcox, like one of the most iconic characters from A Nightmare on Elm Street. She's in two of the films, and both films she's a surviving final girl.
Yeah.
Say what you want about Heather Langenkamp. I love her and everything, but she was in the first one. She was in the third one, and the third one she died. Whereas Lisa Wilcox fought Freddy and won in 4 and 5.
Twice. Exactly. So that person who purchased that bat, and she signed it for him too.
Nice.
I hope he cherishes it forever because that bat has some very, very memorable scenes in the film.
Well, I have to ask you this question because I spoke to Lydia Manson, but it was it was before, actually the filming, but she was actually going to be going down that
Mhm.
weekend to the set. But she mentioned about, I guess she made the Nightmare House and popsicle sticks and was going to get them to sign it. Did she bring it?
She did, and they
Nice.
all signed it for her, yeah.
Awesome.
She did bring it, and it was really cool to see.
Nice.
Lydia, I cannot talk, you know, this entire cast and crew was amazing.
Hmm.
Lydia was amazing. Where in the first one we were able to order out food,
Hmm.
and this one we really had to cook food. So
Yeah.
Lydia kind of stepped in and she cooked a lot, like when
Nice.
she wasn't filming, and helped out, and
Yeah.
everybody helped out in some certain way,
Yeah.
because we all were living together
Yeah.
for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. Hell, if you end up ordering out at this place, you're probably not getting your food.
No, no. And what's funny is Mike actually, and this shocked me, took an Uber from the airport.
Told me that, yes. Oh.
And I was like, will they bring him up here?
He said that him and the Uber driver were driving around for 45 minutes to find the location.
Yeah, he would call me and he's like, am I here? And I'm like, I'd look
Oof.
outside. I'm like, no, you're not here. Where you are. But I was
Awesome.
shocked that an Uber brought him up.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I could only imagine, driving that.
I will say, just everybody in this film was
Mhm.
just wonderful to work with.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
there's a lot of memories. I have to, once I got home, I had to take it all in that I just finished my second film in a year and a half,
Yeah.
literally.
And in that year and a
Um,
half, you worked with Kathy Podwell, Lisa Wilcox, Danny Hassel, and Mark Patton.
yeah, and I had to take that all in. Like,
Yeah.
it's a dream. It
Yeah.
is a dream come true,
Yeah.
and to be able to say that,
Yeah.
I want to say to any filmmakers out there, you know people are going to tell you in this
Mhm.
industry you can't do it, you'll never
Yeah.
do it. I
Yeah.
heard that so
Very
many times.
cutthroat.
Yes, I heard that so many times. If
Mhm.
you have the passion and the drive, do
Mhm.
not give up, because in a year and a half, literally, like you said, I worked with Kathy Podwell, Mark Patton, Danny Hassel, and Lisa Wilcox,
Mhm.
and did 2 films.
Absolutely. And I mean, what you said, if you give up, then you won't succeed, like you won't, because you didn't try, and if you fail, you can always try again. I just came out with my new website for my author and acting. And if you go to the About the Author page on my new website, it literally says there, like, you can do anything you can as long as you try.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I think I told you before, and it's on my Facebook page. One of my favorite quotes is by the singer Selena,
Mhm.
who was sadly, I think we've talked about it, was murdered.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm a big Selena fan too.
but the quote goes, if you have a dream, how is it? If you have a dream, never let anyone take it away,
Yes.
and always believe the impossible is always possible.
Absolutely. Impossible is just possible with the letters I am in front of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm not saying that making a film is easy, because it's not. It's a
It
lot of
isn't.
hard work.
It isn't.
You have to be dedicated,
Yeah.
and you have to be able to put in the hours, and
Yeah.
you
Hmm.
know, and I don't think a lot of people
They don't
understand
realize
either.
that. Yeah.
Me as the director and a actor, everybody else got paid. I didn't get paid. I
Right.
don't care to get paid. I was doing it for the love of it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I made 3 films, and each time there was different challenges, all equally or more or like harder or challenging than the other.
Exactly. And you
Yep.
learn something from each time.
Yep, you learn how to do it, and if you come across it again, you're like, "How did I do it last time?" That's right. That's what I did, and you do it again that way. I mean, you're always going to come up with the same challenges, but sometimes new challenges arise. And one thing I learned early on in film is that if you have a challenge, there's no challenge that can happen that cannot be fixed. You can always have a solution. It might not be the best solution, but there's always a solution.
Oh, exactly. And there's always going to be some sort of challenge. It's
Yeah.
not a, don't think that it's just going to be easy
Hmm.
peasy once you get on set. No,
Yep.
there's always going to be something that happens.
Yep.
Um, but you figure it out and you keep going.
Absolutely.
Um, and one thing I also want to say, and I really hate that I missed it, because I was getting ready to do a scene. They were filming one of Mark's scenes, and
Mhm.
he put a little nod to Nightmare 2
Nice.
without even being asked. And
Mhm.
everybody was like, "Oh, shit!" I saw the playback of it, and I
Mhm.
don't want to say what it is because everybody's gonna know when they see it.
Nice.
But every actor had a nod to Nightmare in there
Right.
somewhere. Danny had a nod.
Nice.
Lisa had a nod.
Nice.
Um, so that was a lot of fun. But Mark, that's talking about Mark too, and the caliber of an actor he is.
Right.
Like I said, we would rehearse scenes before we'd shoot them, and we'd start
Right.
shooting. Cameras start rolling, and he'd throw some little extra thing in there to catch you
Nice.
off guard.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and that it was hilarious, and you
Yeah.
would have to remember, oh, we're filming. So once we caught cut, everybody would bust out laughing.
Nice.
Um,
So I want to take a guess on what Mark did, and you can tell me yes or no after we wrap up, filming this episode of Slasher Scotty. So I'm thinking, and heck, I'm gonna go and do it. The whole, the butt thing to the.
uh,
So
I
you don't have to say anything now. You could tell me after.
I will not confirm or deny.
Okay,
That's
sounds good.
after after yeah, I'll tell you after, but I won't confirm or deny
Sounds
on
good.
this.
I had to say it, and I had to do the motions, although the camera's like really close to me, so like it probably wasn't easy to see, but
Now I will say the nod that we gave him from Nightmare 2, and this was not giving anything away, and I'm sure
Mhm.
you remember when you first meet Kim Myers' character in Nightmare 1 or
Mhm.
Nightmare 2, shit. Uh, and he opens the door and she's looking out and then she turns around.
Yeah.
That's how we introduce his character in Reunion 2.
Okay.
When I open the door, he's looking out over the mountains and then he turns around.
Nice.
Um, so that was the little nod to Nightmare 2.
Nice.
And
And it's
then,
a very subtle nod that obviously you can't get in trouble for any type of screenplay violation or copyright violation, but
yeah,
it's enough that you can get the little hint, the subtlety there.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And
absolutely.
each actor had one somewhere
Nice.
throughout the film.
Awesome. Awesome. I can't wait to see this movie. For those that want to know when Reunion from Hell 2 is released or planning a release, or for the premiere itself, stay tuned to Hayden's Facebook, the Reunion from Hell 2 group. Do you have anything else to add?
I will say this, we did it with Reunion 1. No,
Hmm.
the premiere date is not set yet, but we will be selling on the Indiegogo a chance to go to the actual red carpet premiere
Nice.
with just the actors and crew. Because,
Nice.
we do 2 showings that weekend. We do the premiere and then we do a showing for fans. But this
Okay.
particular that we're selling on the Indiegogo is for that very first showing with just the
Nice.
actors and crew.
Awesome. Awesome. So definitely check that out and stay tuned for the Indiegogo. And of course, stay
Yeah,
tuned. Go ahead.
it's actually going live on the 15th of this month. So,
Perfect. If
yeah.
I'm not mistaken, the Ides of March.
Yes.
Yes. So check that out, and if you want to see what Hayden's up to after this interview. If you're watching this interview a year from now and you want to see what Hayden is up to, check out his IMDb page, Hayden Newman, and you'll see any projects that he has in the works, past, present, and future.
Yes.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you so much, Hayden, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me back on. It's always a blast.
Absolutely. And like I said, I have a year rule that usually it's a year later, but this time next year I had you on around this time last year. So I would love to have you on as a regular March guest.
There we go.
Absolutely. You have a great rest of your day, Hayden.
You too,
All
Scotty.
right. Bye.
Bye.